Hi guys, welcome to writing class. I was gonna say another session, but we have never had a YouTube session. This is gonna be our first video lesson, and I hope it goes well. Wish me luck. In today's lesson, I want you to guess what we're going to be talking about. So look at the images on the screen and guess the lesson. What do you think we're going to be talking about? So I'm gonna count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you said any words such as reviewing, checking, proofreading, then you are correct. Today, I'm going to be giving you 8 writing tips, but it's really based on what you've already done. So we're doing a review of what we've already done. Before you guys went off, so my CNUE students, before you went off on your long leave to study, actually, I need to take a moment to say well done. Congratulations on doing the teacher's exam. You've studied, you've worked hard, you've had sleepless nights, heart palpitations, so many things, and you've done it. I'm not sure if you're completed yet or if there's other steps before you're completely done, but well done to you. I'm hoping that, for the rest of the few weeks that we have together, just give you some tips to make writing more helpful to you in real life, not academically, but just in real life, in everyday real life. How can you use English writing, and how can you use it in a better way? So I'm going to talk about 8 tips that you need to be paying attention to and you need to be doing or not doing in your writings. And this, earlier I was going to say, it's coming from your versions of My Pet Dog. So your happy moments, the moments that made you really happy, that stood out, that you wrote about, is coming from that. These are the lessons that I saw, or these are the tips that came specifically from that writing. So let's go. Number 1, look at each paragraph and have a little think about what is wrong, or what can the writer do to improve their writings here. So take some time. You can pause the video, have a little think, and then come back to me. Okay, did you guess what the mistake is? In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you highlighted any of these words, or you thought these were the problem, then you are correct. Now, what is the problem, Claudia? For me, it's repetition of the same words in sentences that follow each other. So within one paragraph, the same thing is kind of been said over and over again, and the person is not really using a variety of words or phrases. So number 1, it says, when did you feel happy? That makes you feel happy. I feel happy. Now, if this was spread out and there were some other sentences in between, it wouldn't be so bad. But so close together, it just sounds like they're repeating the same thing. And even though we do that, we need to use different words in order to do that. So, what are some ideas? What can we change it to? And how can we make it a little bit better? Let's take a look at some of the suggestions that I gave. I said, when did you feel happy in your life? I'm sure there are many things that make you feel so excited you'll never forget them. In my case, when I eat something really good, I am so happy it's emotional. Now, this is me putting in my little spice, and it's not exactly the way the writer wrote it, because they wrote it like this. When did you feel happy in your life? I think there are many things that make you feel happy. In my case, when I eat something good, I feel happy. Now, another problem that I had with this paragraph is the word happy. It's quite, when I looked for the synonyms of the word happy, you had things such as cheerful, glad, And so what I wanted to tell this person is maybe start with a really strong version. Like, have you ever felt so excited? Or have you ever felt like, have you ever tasted something so incredible? And then you can like trickle it down to happy. But if you start with happy, you set the bar too low. Let's take a look. Maybe you get what I mean when we go into the dictionary. So I work a lot with the dictionary because that's, you know, it's my friend. The dictionary is my friend. So let's do happy. And here we're really looking at synonyms, right? Let's take a look at some synonyms of happy. We've got cheerful, contented, delighted, ecstatic. I think ecstatic would have even been better. Elated, glad, joyful, jubilant, lively, overjoyed. But then the other problem that I had is we need to use a word that is, you know, in normal conversation makes sense. I don't use the word ecstatic. Have you ever felt so ecstatic? Actually, ecstatic is not bad. Earlier I didn't see this, but ecstatic is not bad. Let's see. Let's go back. If we use the word ecstatic, can it work? When did you feel happy in your life? I think there are many things that make you feel ecstatic. Oh, it doesn't work. It works the other way. When did you feel ecstatic in your life? I think there are many things that make you feel happy. In my case, when I eat something, and I changed it to, when I eat something really good. Now, you're going to notice that when you write really good, the computer is going to give you the suggestion, take out really. But people speak like that. People say so good, really good, even though these are kind of, you're adding an extra word and you're not really doing any, it's not really that special. But for me, I think if it's a personal narrative and it's a story about yourself, I think speaking in a more casual way is okay and it's fine. I would add in really good because that's how I speak. I'm so happy, it's emotional. So yeah, comparing how you feel, telling us about I'm so happy is meh, but I'm so happy it's emotional. It's just a little bit better. Okay, the next one was the repetition of the word Phuket, right? So we had, have you ever been to Phuket? Phuket is a vacation spot located in Thailand. I have been to Phuket twice. Phuket. Too many Phukets in every single sentence. So we can replace it with it. Or we can replace it with another word, or we can just take it out completely. So this is what it sounds like now. Have you ever been to Phuket? It's a vacation spot in Thailand. I love it so much. I've gone twice. So completely took out Phuket there. And then Phuket. So here, just by taking out two of the words, it then makes the second Phuket okay. But with four Phukets very closely linked, it's just too many. It just doesn't flow as well. Next one is, so I planned the trip. I couldn't wait. I was excited all the time. Then I finished planning the trip and there was nothing left except carrying out the plan. Plan, 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 plan. We get it. You're talking about planning a trip. So here it's just, again, repetition. I think it drags it kills the energy, and it just, so here I changed it in this manner. So, comma, I planned the trip. I couldn't wait. I was excited all the time. When I finished, there was nothing left except to go. All right, so we still get the same idea. We still get the idea that you planned the trip and then you went. So it's a much more clearer way to go. So remember, synonyms, when you're struggling and you can't quite think of any other idea and you feel like you're repeating the words over and over again, use a synonym. Okay, number 2. Our old friend an and the, or nothing. The zero represent nothing. Okay, now here, where did I see? So I've got all of your writings here. Now what I would say, let me just say something, people. This is an area for many learners of English that are really tricky. And what I would say is, after you've written your work, just use a table like this and just make sure that you are introducing all of your nouns in the proper way. So remember, nouns need an introduction. They need something. Think of nouns like the Queen of England. When the Queen of England walks into the room, I imagine they're going to be like, the Queen of England. You know, they're not just going to be like, oh yeah, that's the Queen or Queen. No, she needs a proper introduction. So think of the Queen when you think of nouns, and all of your nouns need an introduction, or sometimes they don't need an introduction because they're so unique or they fall under an exception. So in looking at your work, sometimes you misplaced or you used the wrong article. Sometimes you left it out completely. So you can do two things. The easiest way is to make sure that you use a grammar checker such as Grammarly, or use one of these tables to check. If it's a short writing and you've got 5 minutes, use one of these tables to check that you are using the correct article with your noun. So I'm just looking down here because I've underlined like mistakes and stuff. So I'm just trying to see if I can find an example from you guys' writing so that we can do it together. Okay, so we've got here the word islands. And the writer has used the. So let's see the reasoning behind using of the word the. So first of all, when we start over here, we need to ask ourselves, can you put a number in front of the word and it makes sense? So can you say 1 island, 2 islands, 3 islands? Yes. So that means the word is countable. So we go this way. Is it a singular situation? So is it a singular word or is it a plural word? Well, islands is plural. Good. And is it a non-specific situation or is it a specific situation? Has the person been specific? Yes, because in the writing they are talking about a specific place. Phuket, we know that it's not just randomly any island in the world, but we know it's a specific island. So we're going to go over here. So they have correctly used the word the. So you can use this kind of table, and it is good. It is good, especially if you're just trying to get used to using them correctly. I think this is a good exercise. Obviously, if you're really keen on writing, this is a good exercise. But for most people, they probably wouldn't go into in as much detail as this. But I think it's a really good way to teach yourself. The more you do something, the more you train your brain, the more your brain will look out for these things. Let's see if we can get another example. Okay, we got the word color. So this comes from the sentence, color of the beach was just like sparkling emerald. So let me read the sentence before. The sun was shining, the clouds were flowing, color of the beach was just like sparkling emerald. I have never seen such a beautiful scenery. Color. So for me, something is wrong. Can you guess what it is? So with color, we need to ask ourselves the question again. Can you put a number in front of color and it makes sense? Can you say 1 color, 2 colors, 3 colors, 4 colors, and it makes sense? Yes, then it is a countable word. Is it singular? It has the person written it in singular, plural. It's in singular, so we're gonna go this way. Do we know, is it specific? Is it a specific color? Did they mention a specific color? Or is it any color in the world? So here they say the color of the beach. Here they say color of the beach was just like sparkling emerald. So for me, in the way that I would understand this, is the beach has only 1 color. Okay, because they've just written color. It's only 1 color. So I'm going to say it's down this road. It's specific. The color of the beach was just like sparkling emerald. If I say a color of the beach. That doesn't even make any sense, because when we describe the beach, we don't say a color of the beach. We usually say the color, because we're specifically talking about the beach. We have an item that we're specifically talking about. I'm trying to see if we can get if we can do the same example. Nobody used this, but let's say water. Okay, maybe I said okay, maybe I said the blue water. Now, can you put a number in front of water? Can you say 1 water, 2 waters, 3 waters, and it makes sense? Yes and no. Yes, in the sense that when you say 1 water, you probably mean 1 bottle of water, 1 cup of water, 1 something of water. You cannot just put a number in front of water and it makes sense. You mean something else and not just water itself, because you can't count water. So it's a non-count word. So my sentence is the color of water. Is it specific or is it non-specific? Well, in this case, I'm talking in a specific sense. So I'm going to use the. If it's non-specific, it would be watercolor, which will be a completely different meaning. So for me, this is a good exercise because it's a good way for you to just check that you're using the item in the right way. Now let me see if I can see another thing. I have one more here. Here we have the word man. Man, and it comes from the sentence, and one man told us to run towards the ocean. And one man told us to run towards the ocean. So can you count it? Can you say 1 man, 2 men, 3 men? Yes, so it is countable. Is it singular? Well, yes, because they've used the word one. And in the singular, is it specific or is it non-specific? Do we know which man or do we not know which man? Has the person described the man? Just as 1 man told us to run towards the ocean. No, they haven't told us who it is, so it's non-specific. And the person needs to use a or an. So in this case, and a man told us to run towards the ocean. In order to use and 1 man, it just doesn't sound right to say, and 1 man told us to run towards the ocean. Usually you would just say, and a man told us to run towards the ocean. If you had mentioned, and one of the men told us to run towards the ocean, that makes sense to use the number. But in this case, just use a or an. It's not always easy for me to explain articles because I didn't learn articles in the same way that I teach it. I learned it in a much more natural way, and I just understood it as, grew up and living in England and stuff. But I know that for a lot of students, you just can't see that the article is missing or that it's not there. So again, my advice would be do, 2 things. Either use a grammar checker. It will most likely pick up, not always, that the article is missing or that you've misused the article. And also try, whenever you write, try and look at the articles that you've used, making sure that you've introduced the noun in a proper way. The next not mistake, but the next thing that I noticed in your writings, a lot of people were doing this, and it's really to do with this first bullet point, and it's really specifically about introducing a noun, and then how do you then treat it afterwards. So when you first introduce a noun and it's not specific, the person who is reading the story doesn't know what you're talking about, you're going to use a singular article, either a or an. But the second time you introduce that same noun, it is now specific because the person now knows what you're talking about. So you need to use the. As in this example here, I ate an apple yesterday. I don't know which apple you're talking about. The apple was juicy and delicious. I now know what you're talking about. So just remember that concept. When you first introduce a noun, it is not specific. But then the second time you mention it, it is specific. So let me see if I can see any of such examples in your writings. Blah, blah, blah. Do you know one thing? I was like, I should have color coded this to make this easier for me. Because I spotted all of this, but it just takes me a while. It takes me a while. Okay, I'll find it sometime soon. It is there. I saw a lot of it last night. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I know I saw it. I know I'm not crazy. I know I saw it. All right, so I have an example here. So the person has already introduced their plan. They're talking about a holiday to Fukuoka in Japan. They've already talked about the plan, and in towards the end of their story, when they're talking about this plan again, they say something along the lines of, when the time came, I arrived at Fukuoka airport with a perfect plan. And when I arrived, I was surprised by the beautiful scenery. It's not the first time the person has spoken about the perfect plan or a perfect plan. They've mentioned it throughout since the beginning of the story. And so in this point, we know what they're talking about. So they can just refer to it as the perfect plan. So yeah, I think that's where I saw it. I did see it in other things, but for some reason, I can't quite find it. But it is often a mistake that I do see. And if you do happen to make that mistake, please do correct it. Now that's that for that section. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, number 3. Read it out loud. Read it out loud. Or better yet, get your computer to read it out loud for you. Did you know that your computer can read for you? Let me see. All right. Did you know that your computer could read for you? If you're so lazy that you can't read, your computer can read it for you. So in Word, I go to review and I go to read aloud.
You will be teaching a song lesson. Please make sure to complete and hand in the following lesson plan and script on iClass, flashcards and other digital materials on iClass, lesson video on Flipgrid. 1. The hook. Introduction.
Introduce yourself to the class. Introduce the topic using a warm-up activity, song, video, rollerplay, game, etc.
I like how he said rollerplay. All right, but then that tells me something. Maybe if I do it like this, will it read it better? Let's go back.
The hook. Introduction.
Introduce yourself to the class. Introduce the topic using a warm-up activity, song, video, role-play, game, etc. State the objectives of the lesson.
Boom. So it's told me that my misspelling was there. What I do find, if I'm really tired and I'm just having one of those days where I'm not feeling it, I'm not in the mood for proofreading and it's a long document, I find it really helpful to hear it being read. Now I know there's some websites out there, but I don't really know the name of them, but there are websites out there that will you can copy and paste your work into and it will read it for you, and you can choose female voice, male voice, American, British, and all of that. It's a really good way to hear how your writing sounds. And the reason why I say that is because when we use the template, in the template they use transition words such as first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, whatever, and finally. And they're fine to use. However, when reading some of your stories, using those types of transitions kind of sounded a bit off. They didn't quite flow so well with your writing. And so my advice would be read your work out loud and how does it sound to you? Because sometimes a lot of the mistakes that I pick up is when I read it and then I'm just like, they're using the right words, but this expression sounds a little bit off, or this expression doesn't sound how I would usually say it. For example, I came across this quite a lot, and it was the use of my friends and I. And I kept on thinking, is it right to say my friends and I, or I and my friends? No, I think I kept on hearing I and my friends, whereas I would usually say my friends and I. Now, both of them are right and they can be used, but I'm more used to seeing my friends and I, or I don't usually say I and my friends. And so what I would say is make sure that you read it out loud or listen to it being read out loud and see if you can train your ear to kind of, pick out stuff that is maybe missing or maybe doesn't sound quite right. You've got to train yourself. You've just got to get better at hearing mistakes and hearing different things. So for example, this was actually one of the really good ones, but I thought maybe this person didn't need those transition words. This is how it went. It says, have you ever flown the sky? I have, when I was in Da Nang, Vietnam. When I and Min Hei were hanging around the beach, we suddenly decided to go paragliding. See, when I'm reading it, even I'm stumbling in reading it because it just doesn't sound as natural as normal. So I would usually say, when Min Hei and I were hanging around the beach, we suddenly decided to go paragliding. Flying above the beautiful ocean was such a thrill. I couldn't believe that I was actually flying, and I love that. First, we were just walking and taking photos at An Bang Beach. Everything was perfect. The sun was shining. The clouds were flowing. The color of the beach was just like sparkling emerald. I have never seen such a beautiful scenery. Then a merchant came to us and showed us a pamphlet in Korean. So the use of first and then, I thought in this story, maybe that you don't really need it. Maybe first works, then does it really make any difference? Not really. Or another word such as suddenly, it kind of has that effect of 갑자기. That's one of my favorite words in Korean. It's just like bam. So we need something a bit stronger because then is a bit weak. But I loved how this person was describing their story and how they were telling us about their experience. All right, number 4 is a mugshot. So this was a mistake that I saw in 2 of the writings, but I thought it ties in well with the mugshot. I don't know if we've looked at this, but if we have, I'm sorry, I apologize. But if we haven't, let's take a look at this. So you can pause the video now and see if you can find the mistakes. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1, let you go. So here we have, take out the trash, Mom ordered before the dog knocks over the can. And we have, Jordan gets those straws out of your nose. Jordan, get those straws out of your nose, Mom shouted. So here we have, take out the trash, Mom ordered before the dog knocks over the can. So a couple of important things is keep any punctuation in the quotation, right? So the comma comes before the quotation mark and not afterwards. Here, this is just separating, and I think this is something that's good to do. In order to kind of separate the quote from the person speaking, you can put a comma. She said, comma, get out. Mom ordered whatever. And here, the teacher has pointed it out perfectly. So here we just broke the sentence. So the sentence is, take out the trash before the dog knocks over the can. but the writer has inserted mum ordered. So we don't need a capital letter over here as we did over here. So again, you can see the full stop is within the quotation marks and not outside. Here we have Jordan, comma, get those straws out of your nose. And they've changed the punctuation. They've made it into a stronger punctuation because here the mom is shouting. Okay, number 5 is ask yourself these questions. Now, my most frustrating thing, I mean, there's mistakes here and there everywhere, but my most frustrating thing, I think, when I was reading your personal narratives was just the lack of detail. A lot of facts, a lot of things that you told me, but you didn't really tell me because you left me with so many questions. First, I was talking about restaurants with my friends. Usually I want to eat meat, so I told my friends about it. Why? Why did you tell your friends? Why do you and your friends usually talk about food? Or why do you talk about restaurants? What's so special about food? Meanwhile, I found out about a restaurant called Smog House. How did you find out about a restaurant called Smog House? What's so special about it? How did you stumble on it? Did your friend tell you? There were so many things that I wanted to know. Then I promised to go to the Smog House next week. I'm so happy to eat something special. I really am looking forward to go there. Why? What you have not told me. What is so special about Smog House? So here, I would encourage you, ask yourself some questions. Some who, what, where, when, why. All right? Some questions that deal with the what, the who, the why, the how, the when. So that you give the reader as much details as possible. So here, for the Smog House, why do you feel so strongly about the Smog House? Why should I care about Smog House? What was it like when you went there? What did it smell like? What did it taste like? What did you have? What did the menu look like? So I think something that I see a lot, or something that people point out to a lot, is show, don't tell. So show me, give me examples of, or persuade me why I should go to the Smog House. Tell me why. Tell me, what was it like when you first walked in? What did the food taste like? What did you have? It's meat, but what kind of meat? All meats, one meat, soft meat, hard meat, on a stick, barbecued, in the oven, fried, skewered, cubed, diced, souped. I need to know, because there's so many things that you kind of left out, and that can be a specific tool, but in this case that was not a specific tool. In this case, that was frustrating me. Now, one story that really I think it just warmed my heart, and it was the best one of all, because it really just had me in my feels, and it was this. Have you ever? No, I need to do this story justice, so I'm gonna start again. Have you ever had a miracle moment? For me, it was the moment when I first met my girlfriend. I've never seen such a beautiful girl in my life. I couldn't believe the girl I saw was a real human being. Now it was just, I just loved it so much. And it's not because I'm some kind of hopeless romantic, but it was just, it had everything. It explained to me what was happening, how they felt. What was happening, how they felt. I still had some questions, such as, what happened next? How long did she stay your girlfriend? What did she look like? I still had some questions, but they were the right questions. They were the questions that kept me a little bit hooked. And so, ask yourself as many questions as possible. Put yourself in the writer's shoes and think about, what does the other person need to know about what I'm talking about? Okay, number 6 is your turn to actually guess what is the problem. So can you take a look at what I've written and find what is the common mistake, or what is the mistake these writers are making? Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you said capital letters, you are correct. So here we have it after the comma. Mum's touch is in capital letters. And I'm not sure about tendon. I know sushi doesn't have a capital letter, and pork cutlet does not have a capital letter as well. And it is all to do with capital letters. I always say this is a basic kindergarten mistake. However, in Korea, the amount of students that produce work, grown 20-year-olds that produce work with capital letters mistakes all the time, is frustrating. But then again, I'm like, it's a whole mother tongue versus non-native tongue issue. So it's very understandable. So what I would say is just make sure that you always refresh yourself with what should be a capital letter. If you do a review of your work, such as if you quickly, do a review of your work, any underlined word, any sort of underlined word, click on it. It should pick up most of the mistakes. And you can also do spell check. So under review, you can do spell check, but I can't remember where spell check is. No, spell check. Yeah, you can do spell check, and it can, it can check, for common mistakes and things such as that. And it might be able to pick up all of the capitals that are incorrect, but also making sure that you just roughly know what should be capitalized will be good for your life. Here I've put capitals because it kind of just it gives you more ideas, but an acronym that is quite helpful is the a word MINTS, and it stands for months, days, holidays, the pronoun I, names of people, places, etc., titles of books and movies, start of the sentence. Right, so you can use MINTS, or you can use this one that I've put out here, which is capitals: calendar words, addresses, proper nouns, initials, titles of books, abbreviations, land and water words, start of the sentence, or quote. Number 7. Okay, take a look at these 3 titles. Which one is the correct title? Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you said my first flight in Da Nang, you are correct. Why? Why? Because of capital letters. It just had all the capital letters in the right place. My happy moment, there's nothing wrong with that title except for the fact that there's no capital letters. And again, same thing here. And this is also just not a title. This is not an appropriate title because it's just rephrasing the work. It's not actually titling the story. So what should you be doing when it comes to titles? You need to capitalize all of the important words. Words that are not capitalized usually are articles, prepositions, conjunctions, unless they appear at the beginning of the word. And then also you always capitalize the first and the last word in the capital. So that's a little heads up on capitals. Number 8. Okay, so this is just to remind you of the different ways that you can start your story. So in the pet dog assignment, we all started with a question, but now that you've written it and now that we're looking at it and we're reviewing it, I want you to consider whether maybe using a sound would be better. So for example, in Have You Ever Had a Miracle Moment? Maybe you can start with a dialogue between you and the girl. Hey, what's your name? Have you ever had, actually no, I just think it's so perfect that you've used a question. Have you ever had a miracle moment? What can we, oh yeah, in the smog house, maybe you can start with a sound like, or that is amazing. When did you ever feel happy in your life? So you can start with a sound, or maybe Da Nang, you can start with a Vietnamese word. I don't know. You can think of a way that you can start with a sound like boom, bap, crash, something like that. An onomatopoeia sound. A dialogue, so you can put in a conversation between you and another person, or a conversation that you're overhearing. That can be an interesting way to start. Or you can describe the setting. What did it look like? How was it? What did you feel? What did you see? What did you smell? All of those details can be really good ways. So think about it. Look at your story again, and then think about what would be the best way for you to start the story. Is a question the most appropriate, or can one of these other ones be an even better way? Another thing to think about is ways to end the story. I think most of you just concluded with what happened, but here are some 4 ways that you can end the story. You can, number 1, describe a lesson you learned from what happened. If it was, a negative thing or a positive thing, you can describe it. So here, a week later, she became my girlfriend. So this is one of my favorite story. Have you ever had a miracle moment? I'm gonna call it a miracle moment. So a lesson that you learned. What lesson did you learn from that experience? Don't be afraid to try something new. Don't be afraid to walk into orchestra club or join orchestra club. Like me, you may meet the person of your dreams. So yeah, just give us a lesson, some advice. Number 2, you can rephrase what you said at the beginning. So again, let's just go with, because I'm just so in love with miracle moment, let's go with miracle moment. So miracle moment wrote, have you ever had a miracle moment? For me, it was the moment when I first met my girlfriend. I've never seen such a beautiful girl in my life. I couldn't believe the girl I saw was a real human being. So you can rephrase that. Do I have the brain capacity to rephrase that right now? No. So I'm going to challenge you guys. Can you, in the comments, rephrase that part? I'm going to put it in and I'm going to ask you guys, rephrase that part to conclude it. If I can give it an attempt, what would I say? So it started off with a question. So I can start with a question. Oh, I'm gonna have a little think about it, and I'm gonna put something in the comments as well, because I think it's too special to not do anything about it. Share how you feel, so or share a hope that you have. Maybe the hope, as the author, you can say, I hope that you are able to find somebody just like my girl. You can see I'm having a lot of fun. So that was a very longer video than I expected it to be. But those are some tips. So I know it might be a bit tedious, but this is the right time to go back and take a look at that personal narrative and see how you can improve it. And one thing I just want you to know, it's not so much about the length of it. I don't want you to write loads, but I just want you to give us a complete story, complete thoughts, and just give us as much detail as possible. So take a look at the story, and then you're going to be, I think I'm gonna encourage you guys to share it with one another, read it, so you can get feedback from other people as well as me. So that is it for this week. Join me again next week. I don't know if I'll be on video or on Zoom, but we'll see each other next week to continue talking about writing in English in practical ways. So thank you very much for watching the video. I bid you adieu and goodbye from me. Bye bye.